Hello again, I'm attorney Robert Flesses for Robinson Lloyd Career Training Institute. This is part 1 of course 3. In this course, we'll discuss accurately representing the fees you charge to consumers. Second, we discuss antitrust issues in real estate. And finally, referral fees. The 4th video in this course will be the review for your test. This video will focus on commissions. Let's get started. Commissions are set forth in a listing contract and buyer agency agreement. A commission is earned if the terms of an offer are substantially the same terms as indicated in a listing contract with a buyer who's ready, willing, and able to complete the obligations and close the transaction. This is the most common event that entitles you to a commission. A commission is also earned if you receive an offer that's at or above the listed price and the seller doesn't accept the offer and the listing expires. There are other events that create entitlement to a commission. Your listing contract is also enforceable against the seller. The property is exchanged or optioned. Either of these two events entitle you to a commission. So the basic theory is that an effective change in ownership or control of a listed property entitles you to a commission. Now let's talk about how a change in ownership occurs. The most common and straightforward change in ownership of real property is through a sale and purchase transaction. This involves the transfer of the property from one party, the seller, to another party, the buyer, in exchange for a mutually agreed upon price. The transfer is typically accomplished through a deed or other legal documents, and the buyer assumes ownership and control of the property. A change in ownership can be accomplished through inheritance when the owner passes away and leaves the property to heirs or beneficiaries as outlined in their will or trust or by the laws of intestate succession. In this case, the ownership and control of the property is transferred to the heirs or beneficiaries. Property can also be transferred by intestate succession, which happens when a person dies without leaving a will. Ownership of real property can be transferred by gift, where the current owner voluntarily transfers the property to another person without any monetary consideration. This typically involves executing a deed of gift or a similar legal document. The recipient becomes the new owner and assumes control of the property. Real property can be transferred into a trust, where the legal ownership and control of the property are held by the trust itself. The trust document specifies the beneficiaries and the terms under which they can use and benefit from the property. The trustee manages and controls the property on behalf of the beneficiaries. Another example of transfer of ownership and control is in a case where a property owner defaults on a mortgage or loan secured by the property. The lender, as you know, can initiate a foreclosure action, and the property is typically sold through a public auction, and the highest bidder becomes the new owner. Governments have the power of eminent domain, which allows them to take private property for public use. If the government determines that a property is necessary for a public project, such as the construction of roads or utilities, they may initiate condemnation proceedings. The owner is compensated for the property's fair market value, and the government assumes ownership and control for the intended public use. Now, a commission is not earned when a conveyance is made by the transfer of property through a divorce, where one spouse obtains all right, title, and interest to the property by judicial order. Well, let's talk about how is your commission calculated. A commission can be based on the total consideration between the parties. This is a percentage-based commission. In this arrangement, your commission is calculated as a percentage of the consideration for the property. This commission structure is commonly used in residential and commercial real estate transactions where the agent's compensation is directly linked to the value of the property being sold. The higher the sale price, the higher the commission earned by the agent. It provides an incentive for agents to secure a higher sale price and achieve favorable outcomes for their client. Commissions can be based upon a number of events. the list price, the value of an exchange, the fair market value of the portion of the effective change in ownership, and the total offered purchase price. If your commission earned is for a portion of property, the listing contract is not terminated. It's presumed that you were hired to sell the entire property unless the listing contract states otherwise. Let's say only half of the listed property was sold and there's another half remaining. Then the listing contract is still in force. Here are some other issues that we can bootstrap to commissions. Let's look at sub-agent compensation. Theoretically, the entire commission is earned by the listing broker. Then the broker's commission is shared with a sub-agent. On many closing statements, you'll see the listing broker's commission and a separate entry for a sub-agent commission. The total commission is paid to the listing firm in theory, and the listing firm compensates the sub-agent according to the terms of the listing contract as authorized by the seller. Now let's say you receive an offer that includes a financing contingency. Is it your obligation to determine or confirm a buyer's financial capability? No, it's not. But a seller can confirm a buyer's qualification by negotiating a financing contingency, require proof of funds, or obtain a qualification letter from a lender. The terms of entitlement to a commission are found on lines 27 through 53 of the WB1 residential listing contract and at lines 33 through 53 of a buyer agency agreement. How do commissions operate when you're dealing with a buyer? A commission under a buyer agency agreement applies to a purchase, an option, an exchange, and a change in ownership or control. It's earned if during the contract period a buyer or any person acting on behalf of the buyer acquires an interest by entering into an enforceable contract to acquire an interest upon any terms and any price acceptable by the parties. A commission under a buyer agency agreement is calculated as follows. For a purchase or an option, it's calculated on the total consideration in the transaction, or for an exchange or an effective change in ownership or control, the fair market value of the property in the transaction. If there's other compensation that's part of your agreement, then the other compensation must be indicated in the contract. In a buyer agency agreement, you can also indicate a retainer in advance. For example, you can charge by the hour if your buyer will accept that form of compensation. Now let's talk about 3 disciplinary cases that involve receipt of a commission. The first case relates to receiving a commission while being unlicensed as a real estate professional. A licensed salesperson received a commission while his license was inactive. His real estate salesperson license became inactive due to his failure to complete the required continuing education courses. Despite his inactive status, he continued to engage in real estate transactions and received a commission for a sale he facilitated before his license expired. Well, according to Wisconsin Statute 452.12(2), it's unlawful for an individual to act as a real estate salesperson without a valid and active license. Well, he acknowledged that he was aware of his inactive status, but mistakenly believed he could still receive a commission for the real estate transaction he was involved in. He argued that he did not actively engage in real estate activities during his inactive period, but was merely involved in the closing of a previously negotiated deal. He accepted a commission while his license was inactive. The board imposed disciplinary measures. Now, this case serves as a reminder to you that you have to ensure that your license remains active and comply with all applicable laws and regulations. Another is a case involving a broker who failed to properly account for and distribute commission payments to her sales agents. Remember in our previous course, I said that anyone can file a complaint against a licensee. Well, in this case, multiple sales agents filed complaints against their broker, alleging that she withheld and failed to disperse commission payments owed to them for completed real estate transactions. The agents claimed that Smith had collected the commissions from the transactions but didn't pay them. Well, the DSPS discovered that Smith had engaged in misconduct by retaining commission funds that rightly belonged to her sales agents. During the disciplinary proceedings, Smith admitted to the allegations and acknowledged that she had violated Wisconsin real estate laws and regulations. She claimed financial difficulties as the reason for her actions, but accepted responsibility for her misconduct. The board issued an order imposing disciplinary measures where Smith's real estate broker license was suspended for a specified period. She was also required to pay restitution to the affected sales agents, compensating them for the commission amounts wrongfully withheld. Licensed real estate brokers have a duty to accurately account for and promptly disperse commission payments to their sales agents as agreed in their contractual arrangements. Failing to do so can result in disciplinary action and potential harm to the agents involved. Can you pay a non-licensed person a commission or a fee? Well, in this case, Johnson, a licensed real estate agent, engaged in a transaction where she paid a commission or fee to an individual who didn't have a valid real estate license. Upon discovering this violation of Wisconsin's real estate licensing laws, a complaint was filed against Johnson with the DSPS. The complaint alleged that she had unlawfully paid a commission or fee to a non-licensed individual, which is in violation of Wisconsin Statute 452.12 sub 2. It was determined that Johnson had indeed paid a commission or fee to a person who was not licensed. You know, I kind of wonder how they discovered the facts of this one. The board issued an order imposing disciplinary measures on Johnson. Well, let's talk briefly about the NAR's Code of Conduct when it comes to commissions. It states that realtors must not represent that their brokerage services to a client or customer are free or available at no cost to their clients unless the realtor will receive no financial compensation from any source for those services. Well, that's it for part 1 of course 3, and I'll see you in part 2.